Welcome to the Muxall Open IoT channel. I am your host, Michael Crane.
Okay, so it's about 6 o'clock in the morning here. I am at the lab and got the pellet hopper full. Got a V3 in there. I'm going to be cooking a brisket today. Hopefully it'll be done in 12 hours, which means it should be done around 5 or 6 o'clock. I just fired it up, as you can tell. Going to be testing load 608. So hopefully everything will test out okay. I'll release it probably Tuesday. And oh yeah, today is the 4th of July, 2022, Monday. So yeah, I'll probably be doing some work. Got lots of work to catch up on. Got the pellet hopper vibrator running on run with auger. So when the auger turns on, the pellet hopper vibrator turns on. And I'll be setting it at 250 for, I don't know, 12 hours, I guess. So, all right. I'll give you a picture of the graph. This will be a very short video. I'm sorry, I'll give you a picture of the meat when I put it on there. And like I said, this will be pretty short. So if I think of some other stuff, I will add it on there. I'm also, in case everyone's wondering, I am using, go to smoke mode here. I'm using minimum smoke. I have reset the pellet hopper level, and in case you didn't know, you can reset the pellet hopper level from the LCD screen. So I filled it up to my fill point. Back you guys up. And yeah, to reset it, you just scroll down until the cursor is under. Oops, that's the slew rate. Oh, you can also set the slew rate if you want, but just turn the knob, hit enter, and it'll reset it. Now, I already did it inside using the web app, just in case you didn't know that. Anyway, I'm going to go back up here to the status screen, maybe. There you have it. Alright, I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so the brisket in. Oh, by the way, I tell people that I have a can around my probe. I thought I'd show it to them. Yeah, that's, it works pretty good. It's basically just blocking the superheated air coming out from underneath the grill and around the drip pan, and it just kind of blocks it from hitting the tip of the probe. If you have a horizontally mounted probe, you probably want to cover that tip a little better. Anyway, the brisket's in there. I'm going to try it fat side down today. I've heard both sides, and I think I've always been cooking it fat side. I'm sorry, I'm trying fat side up, not down. I usually do fat side down, but I figured I'll try it up today. Got my pan of water in there to keep everything moist, and yeah, that's about it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick overview of the web app, and I haven't done one of these in a while. We've added a lot of things since I've done a overview of it, and I get a lot of questions. A lot of them are the same questions, and so I thought I would go ahead and do this while I'm cooking my brisket. So to get to the web app, first you need to find the IP address of the controller, okay? And to do that, you have to go out to the controller and look on the config tab. So let's go do that. Okay, so we're out here at the controller. Now to get to the config tab, you just hit the button to pull up the menu, and you can just use the cursor key. Go down to where the cursor is highlighting config, hit enter, and there's IP address. And most of you kind of know that, but, and by the way, so anyway, here's our IP address. It's .138, and And just so you know, you don't have to have it connected. You don't have to use a web app to cook with. You can cook with anything on here. But you do need the web app to make a lot of configuration changes. So I just thought I'd mention that since we're doing an overview. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and enter our IP address we just saw, 92.1.1.138. Enter, and the password is Muxall. And you can save it, I don't save it. And the reason why is well, for one thing, I test a lot of controllers, but if your Wi-Fi router reboots, this IP address may change. And I just didn't want a whole bunch of the same passwords in there. It's easy to remember what the password is because it's the exact same thing as username. Okay, I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I don't want to bore everyone to death. I will highlight some of the newer features that maybe people don't know. Anyway, cooking status, it shows what profile it's cooking on. How many minutes is remaining in the cooking profile. You can see 0, and that's because I have hold checked. When you have hold right here checked, this cook time means nothing. And it defaults to 10 for some bizarre reason. I don't really, I think in case you accidentally, I don't know. I don't know why I defaulted to 10. I did it many years ago, and I don't remember why. Anyway, here's the target chamber temp, which is what we set right here, 250. And this is the current chamber temp, which is at 246. We're not using cook by probe, so we don't have to, that's why it's showing 0, and everything's zeroed out. Here's the barbecue run state. This is the state the barbecue is in. Right now it's running. If it was in ignite fire, which would be the startup state, or cool down, which would be the shutdown state, it would also show that status here. Here's the duty cycles of the auger that is being calculated by Patsy. This is the duty cycle on, duty cycle off. And here's our current fan speed. It's currently at 100%. Here's your meat probes. I don't have any meat probes plugged in, so if I did, there would be some temperatures right here. And this is showing the outside temp. And this is the outside temp from the controller's point of view. If this gets above 150 degrees Fahrenheit, the controller will shut off. Or actually, it'll go into cool down mode to try to, it'll stop the cook. Let's put it that way. It will stop the cook. It'll go into cool down mode to try to cool off. Okay. Here's your pellet hopper level. It's currently at 90%. This is how you fill it. You click on fill and you enter the percent. So like if you only fill it halfway up, you can put 50 right here. And I'll just show you real quick. 50. Okay, it comes down here, puts it at 50%, but we're at 90%. Most of the time you fill it up to your 100% mark and hit fill. That's why it defaults to 100, because most people, when they add pellets to their pellet hopper, are filling it up. All right, here's your cook settings. You got 4 cooking profiles. If you want to use the others past number 1, you have to uncheck hold. And if you don't want to go any further, you just check hold. Okay, so in this scenario, if you wanted profile 1 at 250 and profile 2 at 180, you'd have to put a time in here, say 60 minutes or something. And then and then you wanted to finish it off at, I don't know, let's say 150, right? And since it's held, you don't need to put a time in there. I mean, that would be doable. A lot of times what I do is I'll make this like 350 for 15 minutes. And I do that to heat the grill up so I can clean all the crud off the grill, off the grate. And then I use this as my cooking profile. So then I would set like 250 here. And this doesn't matter because I have it held. So yeah, the main thing to get from this is if you have this hold checked, the controller will not go any further than this point right here. No matter, and it will stay on this profile no matter what time you put in here. If you put 0 to, I forget what the max is, 995 or something like that, it will stay there forever, right? If you're cooking by time, you would uncheck this and then put, okay, I only want it to go for, I don't know, let's say 300 minutes. I don't know what that is, but it's a long time. It's about 4 or 5 hours, I guess. And then after 300 minutes, it will drop down. You'll see the hold's not checked. It'll drop down, it'll check, check, check. See, all these are zeroed out, and then it'll stop. It'll go into ending control. Oh, sorry, it'll go into, ending control. And it'll either go into smoke mode or it'll turn off. And when it says turn off, it means it'll go into the cool down state. So just remember that if you have held checked, it's not going to go any further. It just ignores this, okay? If you don't have hold checked, it will look at the cook times. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I get a lot of questions about that. All right. Smoke control, most people know what this means. Now, I get a lot of questions about this precision cook and minimum smoke. These actually put the same amount of smoke on there. Precision cook was actually the first Patsy algorithm I developed. It works pretty good, except if you have any backburn in your auger tube, this will not run properly. And the reason why is because the way it works is it'll dump, 3 or 4 pellets at a time, or even 1 or 2 pellets at a time when it's starting to get close to its target temperature. That's how it makes it precise. But if you have any backburn, and let's say it's back burning 5 or 6 pellets back, and precision cook is trying to dump 4 pellets, it's not going to be able to dump anything, right? Because they're already all burnt. And so you'll get huge swings because it will sit there and it thinks it's dumping 4 pellets in the pot and it's not dumping anything. You're getting back burn, and pretty soon it'll start panicking because the temperature is crashing, and it'll start dumping a whole bunch. And so you get a bunch of big swings. So if you have backburn in your auger, this is the best way to check if you have backburn in your auger tube is set this to 180 and precision, and if it starts swinging crazily, then you know you have backburn in your auger tube. So this is the minimum smoke, medium smoke, and maximum smoke. These are all a newer Patsy algorithm, and this right here is if precision cook's not working for you, use minimum smoke, and minimum smoke will run better because it will dump. It won't ever dump just 2 or 3 pellets. It will dump a full, I think 4 seconds or whatever it is that the auger runs. It will dump the full amount, which will make the grill swing more than precision cook would, but it also won't start swinging wildly if you get backburn in your auger tube. And I may do another video on checking for backburn later. The medium smoke just dumps more pellets to make it swing more, and max smoke dumps even more pellets to make it swing more. And so that's it. And when I'm doing the long cooks, I put it on minimum smoke because I don't want the meat too smoky. It is definitely possible to smoke meat too much and make it bitter. Ending control, cook by probe. I'm not going to go into this too much, but basically what you do is, so like if I was going to cook by probe this brisket, which maybe I'll do, and this is the USDA recommended, I think it's USDA, I forget who. Anyway, these are the recommended cooking temperatures of pork, beef, seafood, veal and lamb, ground meats, and poultry. And that's just so you don't have to remember. I see some people have stickers on the grill. That works as well. But I thought I'd throw these in here, and I'll update them as the USDA or whoever it is that regulates that specifies these temperatures changes. But anyway, if I wanted to do the brisket, you can see that that's beef, but 145 is definitely too cold for a brisket. It would be tough as leather. I'd put it on custom, and then I think it's like 210 or something like that, internal temperature. This rest right here doesn't do anything. It's just for you to put in there to remind yourself to rest. So I would I'd want this thing to so when I'm calculating it out, okay, I want to stop at 210. And what happens when you have this cook by probe in, when the grill of the temperature hits 210, it's going to, in this case, turn off, right? And so then when you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, well, I need to make sure I let it rest for 60 minutes. So I need to wrap it and let it rest and that sort of thing. And that's, I guess I could go ahead and turn this on. I don't have it anything plugged into it right now. As you can tell, I have no probes plugged in, but I guess I can later. And let's see here. The recipes. This thing is, you can use these. I'm not going to go into it. They're kind of broke, and they're not really broke, but if you save a recipe, and you save it by just saying, brisket. And you can give it, say, okay, well, that's an okay recipe, and then you can hit save, and then you can see right here that, so this is the default. Default is, shows what temperatures it is. You change it to brisket. Here's my brisket settings, and that way you can just hit brisket and then hit enter save, and voila, you don't have to remember all this stuff. The problem is when you update the controller, which I'll show in a minute, it wipes all the recipes out. And I've been meaning to fix that. Oh, sorry, we're down here. I've been meaning to fix this, but I need to write them somewhere. And the problem is if I write them to flash, it's gonna clog it up. And right now the flash that's on the controller is pretty small. So this will probably be fixed when we get the cloud access going, because then when you hit save, it'll write it to the cloud, and then you'll be able to just retrieve it from the cloud just by selecting whatever, and then it won't matter when it gets updated because it'll be written to the cloud. I thought about writing, I just found a bug. Interesting. Default brisket. Oh yeah. Okay. Let me write that down real quick. Okay, I went ahead and wrote a bug up on that. I guess I should have said this is a bug. Oops. Sorry, you guys probably don't really want to watch this, do you? Okay. And by the way, if you're ever curious, you can go to my GitHub or the Muxall GitHub page and just go under projects, RPTC-Q, which stands for Remote Programmable Temperature Controller Barbecue Version. LCD, just ignore that. Anyway, you can see all the bugs that are open, which ones I'm working on, and feature requests and all that other fun stuff. Okay, so let's say you've been in here and you're kind of messing around just looking at stuff, and you're like, I don't really want to save this, and you don't really remember how to get back to what it's currently working at, because like right now, for instance, I don't want to change anything because the grill is running. The easiest way to do it is just hit the refresh. That'll reload the web app. type in Muxall, and there you have it. All of my settings that I had before are back in there. Okay, so all right, so that was the recipes, the fan speed. I'm not going to go a lot into this. I've had a couple videos on this, but usually you just want to let it run at auto. This isn't going to do anything unless this target chamber temp is under 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This is only going to start doing anything if you're doing slow cooks like 180, 160, 150, that sort of thing. And you can also, and instead of having it auto adjust, so the automatic will adjust from 100% down to 80, 60, 40, whatever it needs to keep the grill running at the low temperature. And you'll see when it starts changing, you'll be able to monitor what speed it's at. Because sometimes just listening to the fan, you can't really tell, okay? And what these drop downs here are for is if, let's say, auto isn't doing very good and you want to make it slower, then you can just pop in whatever number you need, hit enter save, and it will automatically adjust the fan down to that speed. Now, you have to remember, it's not going to do anything unless this target temperature is under 200 degrees. Because if you're trying to cook above 200 degrees, like I am, and you try to run the fan at 20%, the controller will ignore it. It's not going to do it. And the reason why, it needs the full fan to run the barbecue properly. Otherwise, that low fan speed is just going to, Patsy won't be able to maintain the temperature well at that low fan speed. If you want to play with it, you can. Just make sure you're not doing a big, important cook when you're playing with it. I always suggest playing with your barbecue when it's empty, right? Anyway, stats control. This is if you want to show the debug console. You can see the communication going on between the controller and the web app. And this is just used to debug stuff. And this post stats is actually changed. The original reason for post stats was to change this to like 20 if you're doing like a 12-hour cook. And the reason why is because it saves these stats on your device. So like your phone, your computer, your iPad or whatever like that. And a 12-hour cook with stats with posting stats every 7 seconds was clogging them up. But that was several years ago, like 7 years ago. Nowadays, RAM is, even your phone has like a couple gig of RAM and disk space, and yeah, it's not a real big thing anymore. The problem I've been running into are people have been changing these to like 5 and 4 and 2, and you can't do that. The little bitty processor on the controller is trying to monitor the barbecue and keep it running, and if you change this post rate, then its main job is posting stats and not running the barbecue, and it will clog it up. So I actually put a fix in there where you can't change it to anything under 7. You can go over if you want, and I'll probably just take this out because it's not a thing anymore. But anyway, that's just what it's for. And of course, you always hit enter save when you're making changes. All right, let's go over here to the, let's see, let's check the graph. Everyone knows what the graph is. And I made the graph where I thought it was going to save my changes or save my old graph, but I guess it didn't. It's supposed to, something happens and you need to refresh your graph, it's supposed to save the old graph, and then you can just clear it out if you don't want it. But this one didn't do that. I don't remember. I have to look at the code to see when it clears it out. Usually if you hit start, when you hit start down here, I don't know if we ever talked about these, but when you hit start, it clears a graph out because it thinks you're doing a new cook, right? And so you don't really want an old cook, because when you hit start, it's got to start back to time 0. If you got an old graph on here, it just doubles up. It looks like, it looks bad. So if you refresh it and hit graph, it should save it. Yeah, I'm not sure why it lost it. Anyway, maybe I did something bad. Oh, anyway, these two things right here are hardly anyone ever looks at anymore. But this is the client. The client is the web app. The device is the controller. And it's just saying that they're both ready to start a cook. They're saying they're both ready. They're communicating. Everybody's up and happy. And then, of course, the start buttons are to stop and start a cook. All right, we looked at the graph. Everyone kind of knows. Everyone uses the graph. It's a great debug tool for everything. This is your target chamber temp. This is the temperature it's set at. This is the current temp. This is the actual temperature of the grill. Your cook by probe temp. And, target temp. And this, so if I had it set on 210, it would say that right here, and this would show the actual probe temp. And this right here, I don't know if a lot of people know what this is. Oh, you just see it. You just saw it. I don't know if you noticed it changed from 1 to 0. This is showing. So if it says 1 right here, then the auger is on. If it shows 0 right here, the auger is off. And it's just kind of interesting. If you see the temperature is kind of going crazy, and you see that the auger is off, and you keep getting rise, and something else is wrong. Maybe crossed wire or too many pellets on startup. Yeah, you can see it just transitioned back to on. And this just shows the status of the duty cycles. And this is helpful for me if you're having problems. Send me a picture of this right here. Do it while it's running. That way, because I can look at this and say, okay, I can see that it's running in minimum smoke or precision cook mode because of the duty cycle numbers right here. If we're in medium smoke, well, I don't want to change it because I'm cooking right now. Anyway, if we're in medium smoke, these numbers would be different. They'd be bigger. You got the Wi-Fi signal. That's actually on all the pages, the Wi-Fi signal strength. I'm using a V3 controller with internal Wi-Fi antenna. You can see it's not as good as the external. All right, let's see. Let's go to the config tab. This is pretty long. There we go. So we got pellets level tracking. This is how many minutes the auger has ran. And you can see and this is auger run. So when this auger says 1, just like it is now, this counter starts counting. When it says 0, the counter stops counting. And so and this is how many minutes is counted with the auger running, or another at 1, right? This is just how you enable and disable pellets level tracking. It defaults to enabled, so, and if you don't mess with it, it won't do anything. And this is the full to empty auger run minutes. I know it's a pretty long name. This basically just says, and this is something that you have to measure and set for your grill. But it basically just says how many minutes does your auger have to run to empty a full hopper, okay? And so you kind of calculate it. I've done a video on how to calculate this, so I'm not going to go into it. If I think about it, I'll put the name of the video when I'm editing. Now that's a that's a whole other video on calculating this. And probably the easiest way to do it is just fill it up and run the barbecue until it's out of pellets. You know, just cook normally. It saves these minutes in flash, so it doesn't forget it. If you power cycle the controller, it still remembers it. So yeah, you can just run it until it's empty, and then go check how many minutes it took to empty the hopper, and just put it right in there. Let's look at the pellet hopper vibrator. This is fairly new. This is how you enable the pellet hopper vibrator, and then these are the different modes. You can either run it with auger, which is becoming my favorite. It's probably a little more work on the controller because it's got to turn it on and off every time it turns the auger on and off. You know, helps the auger. You know, when the auger is turning, it doesn't get as many gaps in the auger. You know, pellet gaps. And I think in my mind, it makes it run better. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. I know a lot. I think I'm one of the few. I hear other people using a timer, and timer is just like run it for 1 minute every 1 minute, and you cannot put fractions in here. So if you want the PHV to run more often, then you just use a different mode. You can run it continuous mode, which just turns it on throughout the whole cook and just runs it continuously. If you use auger time, it's looking at these minutes right here. So for every 1 minute of auger time, it'll run it for 1 minute. And you can change these. I forget the maximum minutes on them. I should probably put that in the manual when I think about it. Oh, by the way, on this config tab right here, these don't update like the control tab does automatically. So if you want to refresh like these auger run minutes, just X out, okay, then go to add tab and click on config, and you can see now it'll update this. You can check that out. These config settings should be set and forget. I know a lot of people tinker with them, but they should be set and forget. They're not supposed to be updated constantly. So that's the pellet hopper vibrator. The network stuff is, you know, most people kind of know what the network. This is your Wi-Fi router name, and here's your Wi-Fi router password. Everyone knows what my password is. It's in every one of the controllers. And this right here is if, you know, a lot of people try to disable this DHCP and put a static IP address in there. But you can just use this right here if you have an Apple device. But you can see it. I pop up a little warning. It says this only works with Apple products. Windows 10 and Linux. It does not work with Android and Windows 7. And it says it requires a Bonjour print services, but this is a real POS, so I don't recommend it. But with that enabled, all you have to do is put in this name right here. So you just put this, instead of the IP address, you can just put this in here, and you can change it to whatever you want. You can call it Bob, right? You know, you can put it whatever name you want in there. Don't forget to hit save down here. I'm not going to do it now. And then you can just put, you know, go to bob.local, and it will, and then you don't ever have to put the IP address in it, because you can keep DHCP enabled, and it will map automatically bob.local to whatever IP address it has. But like the warning says, Apple and Windows 10 and Linux are the only ones that support this MDNS, which I forget what M stands for. Anyway, so that's why it's set for experimental, and you can use it or not. Let's use DHCP. If you want to put in a static IP address, for your controller, you can just unclick this, put in the static IP address, hit save. Now remember, this only changes it in the controller. You have to go to your Wi-Fi router and change it in there as well. Otherwise, you'll start having duplicate IP address problems. I recommend using, just keeping DHCP enabled, unless you're absolutely sure you know how to set this properly in your Wi-Fi router. I get lots and lots of questions because people can't get to their controller, and they've unchecked this and put in a static IP address and not set it properly in their Wi-Fi router. So if you use this, make sure you know how to set it properly in your Wi-Fi router. Okay. And these temperature probes here, these are how you set the different temperature probes, meat probes. You've got meat probe 1, 2, and 3, your chamber probe. And these default to just standard trigger type 2-wire probes. But if you use like the Muxall Pro, it is a PT100 4-wire, right? And it kind of shows you what it looks like, the connector looks like. So if you see something like that, then you probably know it's got multiple conductors, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's also 3-wire that has 3 conductors and all sorts of things. But normally you'll switch between PT100 and PT1000, or there's a lot of thermistors out there, and so like Camp Chef, Fireboard, Maverick, Ink Pro, Thermo Pro, and there are a couple generic down here. And a lot of people use these. These are aftermarket jobs that the Muxall Pro supports, so you can use those. All right, you can, and it's basically the exact same for all these right here. It supports even the chamber probe if you want to change it out. And it kind of, this wiring is a bit old. I mean, this picture right here is supposed, right now there's a little jumper right here. There's not actual, in the older ones, the older V3s, there was actual physical wire that jumpered this, but that's now gone. I've got a jumper in the front, V4 and V5s. Anyway, it's not that important. Let's say, okay, Patsy settings. These, now this slew rate is not something that needs to be adjusted every cook. This whole config tab is set and forget. Default works best for most grills. Z grills, Traegers, Pit Boss, whatever. Yeah, the only time you really want to change it is if it's swinging too much. But once you get your grill set and running properly, you shouldn't have to change this. Okay, yeah, don't go in here, because the problem with changing it, I mean, you can go in and mess around with it if you want, but the problem with it is it saves it in flash. So next time you fire your controller up and you forgot that you changed the slew rate on it, the grill is gonna be running crazy, and you're not gonna know why. And it's probably because this was changed and forgot, and now it's going crazy and you don't know why. And I get lots of people setting this wrong, and I'm gonna take these guys out. Well, there's actually 1 or 2 people that use them, but these right here are so slow that a lot of times the grill won't converge on a temperature. And converge means, let's say you have it set for 250, it'll run up, and it's so slow it won't ever drop down. It'll just sit there and hover like 20 degrees above 250. These right here are for like insulated grills that just need forever to cool off. And then the fast is, usually fast is if it's real windy. You can change it to fast to compensate for that. But like I said, once you set this, you do some test runs, get your grill running properly, just leave it. if you're having problems with is swinging too much, then yeah, so you can see right now I'm in smoke. It's running beautifully. If it's swinging too much, just come in here and change your smoke mode. You know, if it's not swinging enough, you can change it to medium. If you're running at max or medium smoke and it's swinging too much, then change it to minimum. Okay, temperature scale, Fahrenheit, Celsius, doesn't really need explanation. Yeah, don't change this while it's running. This you can change while it's running. This is flame out and flame on detection. This is what causes that pause message to come up. And I've actually fixed that in version 608. Now it doesn't just say pause anymore. It says, let me see here. It says, it'll say no error, which is, I don't know why it says unknown error. It should say no error. It'll say flame out, flame on, chamber probe, or over temp. So if flame on right here, detection, in other words, when it's doing ignite fire and it detects that, you know, the grill's not heating up, and then it'll sit there and beep. Instead of saying pause, it'll say flame on, which means that flame on detection has stopped the cook. If you're cooking and the grill flames out, instead of saying pause, it'll say flame out. Okay? And then I forget what the other ones. Oh yeah, the chamber probe. Oh, that was if the chamber probe right here, someone accidentally misconfigured chamber probe and and made the temperature go to 0 while the grill was running. And Patsy looked at that and said, oh, I got to dump a bunch of fuel in there because it's at 0 degrees. Anyway, I fixed that. So if it sees that the chamber probe is at 0 and it's not 0 degrees outside temperature, then it's going to just say chamber probe is something's bad. It's throwing an error. And then of course the over temp is like I was explaining earlier. If this outside temp gets to 150, it will make the grill go into shutdown or cool down state and stop the cook. And you'll see the error cool down. Anyway, so flame out detect time. So this is what you said. I suggest leaving it at the default. And this just protects, so if your grill flames out, instead of it filling up your burn pot with pellets and overflowing all over the grill, overflowing pellets all over the grill. This says if the temperature hasn't risen, so if the auger is running and within 5 minutes the temperature hasn't increased, then more than likely it's flamed out and it will turn it off. And 5 minutes is I have found to be plenty long enough. Flame on detection. I have it defaults to 1. And basically that's just saying, okay, while it's in ignite fire state, if it doesn't raise the grill 1 degree within the this igniter on time. So if it doesn't raise the grill 1 degree within 4 minutes, flame on detection is going to pause the cook, and it'll say flame on instead of pause, but it'll say flame on, and you'll have to fix this. Okay. So that's what those are. And if you want to run flame out detection without flame on detect, you have to leave this enabled, but you can set this to 0. Disable is flame on detect. And this usually happens, a lot of user manuals will say to leave the lid open while the grill is lighting. You cannot do that if you have flame on detection enabled, because the controller is detecting whether the flame is coming on or not. If you leave the lid open, it's not going to be able to detect a temperature rise, and it will pause the cook. So if you're using this, you have to leave the lid closed. All right. Fuel on men. I could write a book on the fuel on men. This is basically how long the auger needs to run, and it's not per minute. It varies depending on what Patsy is doing, but I had to give it a number of some sort in 4 seconds. So the auger basically has to run for 4 seconds every cycle to keep the fire lit. All right. And like I said, this varies, but I had to give it a number somehow so we could set it. All right. And I defaulted to 4. I think a lot of Z-grills run at 3 much better. If this number is too high, a lot of grills won't cool off enough, and you won't be able to cook down at 180. But this is something you need to test with an empty grill. I know a lot of people mess around with it while they're cooking. But yeah, all these should be really tested when you're not trying to cook dinner, right? And if you go to the user's manual and look right down here, it has Z-Grill Patsy settings, and I'm going to add more default settings. These settings right here are for setting your Z-Grill, and very few people ever read this for some reason. Maybe it's just this manual is very long, but yeah, if you go here, you can see this is what most people run their Z-Grills at. The silly raised default. This is just all default. But the fuel on min right here, see it's set to 3. Igniter on time is set to 4, or set to 6 and not 4. And this ignite fire auger DC run cycle is set to 30. I think this is, people have been changing this, but don't hold me to that. They've been changing it to 20. I think 30 is too much. But I need to keep, I'll try to keep this update. They also changed the cool down time to 10. If you have a Z-Grill, which probably 80% of customers that buy from me or have Z-Grills, yeah, you need to set it like this. And I'm going to start setting these. If I know what grill you have, I'll start changing them, because the Z-Grill 600 series has really strange settings, and the default settings don't work too good with those. Anyway, that's for another video. Okay, the igniter on time. This time right here just says how long to keep their igniter on. Pretty self-explanatory. So when you see ignite fire in the controller status, that's what's going on. It's got the igniter on. All right. And then the next one, ignite fire auger DC run. And I know that's kind of confusing. And this basically says, now this is a per minute thing. This is not, this is. So this basically says when the igniter is on, run the auger for 30 seconds per minute. That's the default. I think a lot of Z-Grill people have been changing this to 20, because 30 seconds was making it overshoot too much. Traeger and other grills seem to run pretty good at this. So yeah, if it's overshooting, too much on startup, you can just change that down. I don't recommend going any lower than 10. And sometimes if you do go lower, you have to increase this igniter on time, because it's not getting enough fuel to ignite the igniter, or to run the igniter. And I'm sorry, it's not getting enough fuel within this small amount to ignite. So it's kind of a balancing act. You kind of have to tinker with this, but start with the default. Don't go under 3, and I recommend not going under 10. All right, and there's all kinds of stuff on the group about this. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. I know some of these settings can be a little bit confusing, But that's what this video is for, kind of help out. Cool down time, I defaulted to 5 minutes. A lot of people have been bumping that up to 10 or 15 minutes because they just want their grill cold when it when they roll it back in the garage. Or I guess they're putting a cover on it, who knows. Anyway, it defaults to 5 minutes. I found that's plenty with my trigger, and then I can roll it in the garage. It's happy. And then Patsy modes. And most of you probably know the Patsy modes were a bunch of radio buttons along here. But I added a couple more in this version. We have got the Memphis grill, which is there. This used to be Aussie mode. Now it's a Z grill 50 hertz mode. And the reason why I changed it is because we have a user in Israel that has a Z grill in 50 hertz mode, and it seemed kind of wrong to call it Aussie mode since he's in Israel. So yeah, if you're in Australia or in Israel, you use this. Then we got the Cook Shack insulated grill, and this is, if you have an insulated grill, you can use this. We've got a couple, 2 or 3 guys, or 3. I think we have 3 guys using Cook Shack cookers. They're big cabinet-like cookers. This is for the Muxall Smoker Grill Experiment, which I'll have to do more videos on that later. And then I added the A-Smoke A350 settings and the OK Joe grill. We only have one user of each using these, but they're using custom builds, and so I wanted to make sure that they could upgrade their controllers along with the rest of us. And make sure if you change any of the stuff here, hit save. If you don't want to change anything, just don't hit anything and X out. Oh, by the way, the reason why I keep hitting refresh, that's a bug in Firefox. I don't see this problem in Chrome too much. But that's why I put that refresh button in there. It just redraws the lines. No biggie. Okay, so we've done the graph, the config. Update is pretty straightforward. Click on update. It shows the current version of software you're running and what its status is. And so to get the latest version of the software, just leave this all default, click on update. If you don't like the latest version, it was like a bug you ran into or something, you just want to check out. If the grill's not running right and you just upgraded and you want to go back to the previous version, you can just click on previous and hit update. It'll roll back the load. Or if I build you a custom load, then you can just plug in what number you want, hit update, and I highly recommend you do not experiment with this, because if you booger up your controller, you have to ship it to me to fix it, right? I'll have to go on the debug port and reflash it. We don't want to do that. I'll probably check back in a little bit with on the brisket, but yeah, that's pretty much the overview. Alright, it's about 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Thought I'd check on everything. Pellets seem to be doing pretty good. Vibrator is working pretty good. Yeah, I don't have it set very high, but this seems to work pretty good for mine. Running with the auger, and it's at 2.5%. I don't know if you can see it. I can barely see. The sun's very bright out here. So you can see the temperature is, I just opened the lid. You can see the outside temperature is 106. This thing's sitting right in the sun. So I'm sure it's probably pretty warm. Pretty soon, as soon as the sun gets 1 o'clock or so, it should be in the shade. Yeah, it's not good to let these LCDs sit in the sun. It will damage them. It's kind of hot. We'll wait till it gets shady. Then we'll go over some of the LCD features. Oh, and if you want to see the brisket, it's coming right along. It's shrank a little bit. And yeah, everything's looking good. Yeah, okay, so here's a 11 o'clock graph. I guess it's been running about 5 hours. And yeah, you can see it's running pretty good. Some little just swinging right around the 250 mark, which is perfect. I'll check in with you later when it's a little bit more shady over there, and we'll go over some of the LCD button panel functions and kind of review them while we're at it. Okay, so it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Brisket's been on about 9 hours. Looks like I need to add some water in there. I just probed it, and it looks like, sorry, I've got a glare, but you guys might be able to read. It looks like it's about 190. Oh, no, it looks like it's closer to 200, so I'm thinking this thing's probably pretty close to being done. Yeah, see, it's already up to 200. You can see, we stand up here. You can see the pellet hopper vibrator has been working like a charm. And yeah, everything looks pretty good. I think I'm probably gonna go ahead and stop it and wrap it and let it sit for an hour or so and call it a day. So there you have it. We can go inside and look at the graph here in a minute. Okay, so here we have it. 510 minutes, and yeah, it looks pretty good. Yeah, see the probe's at 204. That's probably good enough to pull off. I don't usually cook by probe. I thought I would this time because last time I was just cooking by time, and I kind of overdid it a little bit. And so this time I thought, I think I read on the internet somewhere, or one of my friends told me that at 204 or at 200 was a good, between 200 and 210. So this, I would call this between 200 and 210. Yeah, it's too bad I didn't actually graph the probe. We could have watched to see if it stalled, but it doesn't really matter. I think this is good. I noticed this 20%. I don't know if the hopper is actually 20% full. I might have to adjust down that. I might have to drop this down a little bit, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. You can see the augers run for 173 minutes. There you go. Yeah, actually, if I let it run, I could probably put that number in here. Anyway, I'm not going to. I don't want to ruin the brisket. Okay, so you can see when it's in cool down mode, it shows profile 5 up here, and as you know, there's only 4 profiles. Profile 0 right here is ignite fire. Profile 5 is cool down, and then you have 4 cooking profiles. In case you're wondering, you can see. Oh, here's the probe temperatures down here. You guys probably all know that. Here's the outside temp, and like I said, this outside temp is what the controller feels. It's not quite 106 degrees out here, but it's probably close to 100. I think it's supposed to get up to 102 today, or 101, I forget what the weather said. So it's about 5-6 degrees hotter than what the outside temp is, which is okay. And so here's how many minutes are left in the cool down, 4 minutes. And target temperature is at 0 because it is cooling down. And let's see, what else can we look at on here? All this thing is cooling off. Let's see, we've kind of looked at the config. Yeah, so there's your Wi-Fi, SSID, here's your password. Yeah, and I know it's visible. That makes it easier for everyone to see what the password is. It drives me crazy trying to put a password in something and I can't see it. So I didn't bleep it out. You can see that this is the Wi-Fi strength. It's showing 2 bars.
and the IP address, which we already looked at earlier. And so you can also set the cooking profiles. You can see profile 1 was 250. The time didn't matter because it's showing hold equals yes. I'm sorry I'm moving around. I can't look through my screen on my phone because there's a huge glare and I can't see. So I'm trying to do this without looking through my phone. All right. So profiles 1, 2, and 3, 4 are the same. Just like in the web app. Smoke. Let's see. And smoke control. Yeah, you can set the smoke setting, min, precision, min, medium, and max. You can set the slew rate, and you can reset the pellet level, like I showed you before. And then ending control, this is your cook by probe stuff. You can just set which probe you want. Oh, you have to enable it, hit yes. Right up here, yes, cook by probe, then you set the probe number and what settings you want it at. Oh, and then what you want it to do, turn off when done. And we can kind of look at these things. So this is just, these are your probe numbers. And then this you can just set custom. You can also come over here and you can also get the USDA recommended things through this as well. Seafood and beef and poultry, that sort of thing. And let's see. Oh yeah, this is ending control, what to do when you can either have it smoke when done or turn off when done. And that's it. And if you don't want to save any of these changes, you just hit the button and exit out of it. And that's pretty much the LCD. It's really very close to the web app. And wow, that's a quick 4 minutes, wasn't it? There we go. And she's off. All right. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments under the video. I will try to answer them the best I can. And I'm going to wrap my brisket up and throw it in a cooler for a couple hours and eat it. So you guys have a good Independence Day celebration, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget, you can support the Muxall Open IoT channel by donation using a credit card and PayPal, or by purchasing products at the Muxall store. Details and links are in the description under this video. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up, that helps, and hit the subscribe button, that really helps. If you have any questions or comments, post them in the comments under this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.